Hello, Mr. Carrier's geometry class. I'm taking a look at your 5.5 right triangle congruence and pause this as needed as we move forward. Let's take a look at number 1. It says to determine whether the pair of triangles is congruent. If yes, include the theorem that applies. So these two triangles, we are going to take a look at these angles are congruent, these sides are congruent, the hypotenuse is congruent also. So yes, and so we have a hypotenuse and leg. Really all we need is the hypotenuse and leg. The 90 degree just tells us that it's a, it's a right triangle, so we are good with yes and hypotenuse leg for number 1. Number 2, determine whether the pair of triangles is congruent. If yes, include the theorem that applies. So once again, we're going to look at these angles are congruent, and the side is congruent, and these angles are congruent. So we have angle, side, angle for both of those. So you should be selecting yes and angle, side, angle for number 2. For number 3, these two triangles, we have these hash marks mean that these two sides are going to be congruent. This one hash mark, these two sides are going to be congruent. Obviously the 90 degree angles are congruent, so we have a side angle side angle side situation here. So we're going to have yes and side angle side. For number 4, notice that these don't match up. We have this angle side angle going on with triangle EFD, but with BCA we have side angle angle. We have angle angle side. So these we cannot say that they are congruent. So we would choose no and not enough information for that one. For number 5, determine whether the pair of triangles is congruent. If yes, include the theorem that applies. So we have angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. These are marked as congruent, so you should be selecting yes and angle, angle, side for number 5. Number 6. The hypotenuse we would need to know for a hypotenuse leg, because we do have these legs that are congruent, but we don't know about the hypotenuse. We do know that they're 90 degrees. That's a little bit helpful information, but it doesn't give us enough, so there's not enough information. So no, you don't have enough information to make those congruent. Okay, so which pairs of the congruent corresponding parts need to be congruent to prove that these are congruent triangles? Well, AB has got to go with XY here. And then angle A has got to go with angle X. And then for part B, and that's the hypotenuse angle theorem. The leg, we have to go with BC's got to be congruent to YZ. So BC and YZ have to go together. And segment AC has got to be congruent with XZ. For number 8. Okay, we have to finish this proof using this tent and these sides for these two triangles. So you have here that's XZW and XZY are right angles. We were given that XZ is perpendicular to WY. So that's going to be perpendicular lines form right triangles. And the way you work this is you just put these in order down here in this answer box. Okay. Then these triangles are right triangles, and that is the definition of a right triangle with those perpendicular lines from our answer that was in box number 2. Z is the midpoint that was given to us up here. It was given to us. Then knowing that that's the midpoint, then this part and this part are going to be equal because that is the definition of a midpoint. And so we have xz and xz, that's the reflexive property. When you see the same things like the reflection, so the reflexive property we're going to use. And so lastly, the only thing that's left is the leg-leg congruence theorem. Those two legs are going to be congruent to one another, so that tells us that those two triangles are congruent. And then number 9. For this cell phone tower, we have these beams that make up these two triangles, and to complete the 2-column proof for those two triangles, we are given that angle H and K are right angles, and so triangle GKJ and JHG are right triangles. That is, first of all, the definition of a right triangle, given that these two from number 1 are right angles. So that's why that works there. Then we're given this information that GH is parallel to KJ. And then for the next one, this angle is congruent to that angle because alternate interior angles are congruent. We have the same thing on both sides of this congruent symbol, so that is going to be a reflection. It's reflexive property. Last thing, we have hypotenuse angle congruence theorem being used for these two triangles to be congruent. If you are having any more difficulty with this, please let me know.